What is up, y'all? Kevin Kuhn here from Athlete Factors. This is the Athlete Factors podcast. My guest today, he's a return guest, Nik Schweikert. How we doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I'm hanging in there. So, I guess a little spoiler for everybody. You tried to run 100 miles in a row without stopping, right?
Correct. Yes, correct.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's. I know.
So, yeah, I wanted to get you back on just to talk about your prep for that, and then your training plan, if any, going into it, and then just your experience during, and now how you're feeling after. So I got to track a little bit of that just from the stuff that you were posting, but it's I'm sure there's a whole lot more there that that you didn't convey, that you didn't post about. So
Definitely.
so yes, how did this all start? Where did this crazy idea come from?
Yeah, so it gets even more crazier as we go into how this idea started, because you talk about training before, and that didn't really happen. So I kind of was just the whole, we're all kind of hit right now with all the stuff going on, and with the COVID-19 stuff, and kind of being like, and I honestly was kind of in a down. My running wasn't really high up. I did run to and from school every day last year because a kid told me I wouldn't, so I did. But towards the end of the school year, right before we kind of got shut down for the year as it went to remote learning, I kind of was only running to and from school, and that was it. So I was getting like 4 miles a day. But then when this hit, I kind of was all of a sudden had this, I was so used to being at track practice all the time. And that time kind of was like just dealing with the frustrations of everything going on. I started being like, well, just kind of like all of us were like, what now? And kind of to get my mental release, I was like, I just need to start running more again. So did, but that's not what started this whole idea. I just started running more again just to get in shape, and thought, I'll get in shape and I'll be ready whenever we can race again.
Mm-hmm.
Which, as we all know, a lot of races aren't happening right now. So I kind of was getting a little antsy, and when am I going to race again? And I was on a run, and I always have wanted to kind of try an ultra. Like, by kind of, I mean like it was something I had like a bucket list of maybe later on when my kids are older and I have time to actually run long durations of runs.
Yeah.
So there was always that inkling there, but I started asking questions on a run, and they started kind of like, you won't do it. You won't do it. And I was running with Tony Migliozzi, who's, he's done a decent amount of 50Ks, and, he's pretty good at that distance, but he was on the run with me, and he kind of kept poking at me like, oh, you won't do it. You won't, and because he knows when he does that to me, I'll do it. So we got into that run. I actually left it, and I thought, there's no way. I mean, it was a Thursday. That was like Thursday night. And I was like, there's no way I'm not doing this. And Zach Marin, who's a pretty good ultra runner kind of in this area, and he's done a lot of races, and he was on the run too. So I was asking him all kinds of questions, just like, so what do I do for nutrition? And, how do people handle this situation? And what pace is a good pace? And just random questions, like totally naive to what 100 miles actually entails.
Yeah.
He gave me, good answers, and it's joking looking back at it now, because he did the same race I did. He tells me about 20% of the information he gave me was correct, and the other 80% I was supposed to figure out was a lie. So there were some things in there that were jokes, but I could tell when they were, so he didn't ever give me bad advice. But 2 days after that, I actually went on a run with Brian Poland, who owns Vertical Runner in Worcester, and he's another kind of ultra guy, and I started asking him questions, and one thing led to another, and he was, I was just running with him. We went on a 20-mile run, and he kind of was like, this was, I believe, like June 20th. So we got on a 20-mile run on June 20th, and kind of like, well, giving me some more information. And I feel kind of like, oh, this would be fun to try sometime. But I was thinking sometime as like sometime in my life, not sometime as like 3 weeks later. But yeah, so it's a little. So he gave me some stuff, and then I get home, and my phone, they started like a group chat, and in this group chat, it's me, Zach, Tony, and Brian, and it kind of became this like, I bet Nick won't do it. And then I had all the excuses built in on why I couldn't do it that July 11th. I'm not going to be, they closed registration, which they did for a brief moment, but then they got permission to raise it up a little bit. So every excuse I had, they had an answer to. Next thing I know, I think it was that day I registered. I think it was June 20th that I went on a run that morning, and by that evening, it was enough razzing me to do it that I said, all right, well, let's try it. And I told my wife, and she was like, well, there's only one rule, don't die. So that was, because once she knew I signed up, she knew I was going to at least try to do it. So you got June 20th to July 11th. So I think June 20th, I ran 20 miles. June 21st, I said, well, I better go back out for another 20 the next day.
Oh, my gosh.
So I ran 20 miles again today, and that was the start of the train. I asked Tony and Zach where they were running the next day, and I ran 20 miles with them. So I went back-to-back 20s that to get me ready. But I went from running about I had a kid. So when she was born, I took we had our fourth child. So she's 3 months old now. When she was born, I took a little down week again. And then I was like, I'll just build myself back up to like 70 miles a week. So I think I had like 3 weeks of training that were above like 70 miles. So it was kind of, I did like a 90-mile week, 110-mile week, and then like an 80 or like another 90-mile week. And then I started like dropping already again. So the week I decided to do it, I think I hit 90. Then the next week I did like 110. And then the next week like 90, then 80. So I think I had like 4 weeks of training in when I did it, towards it, 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Not nearly enough time to get ready for doing what I did. Tried to do, that is. So
what had been your longest race before this?
Oh, a marathon. So when I hit 26.3, it was my new longest run ever. So that was the running joke. As soon as I hit 26.3, I said, well, I got a new longest run.
I'm a quarter of the way done.
Yeah, exactly. I had never done anything. So I hadn't even done like a 50K, 50 mile, nothing. I went straight for the whole thing. And that was kind of like the joke too. I said, well, I don't know. I have no real idea how this feels. So let's just go for it and figure out and attempt to do the whole thing, which was a little bit more, I wouldn't say it was more difficult than I thought. It's just a totally different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a totally different experience. And I'm definitely glad I did it. And I have no regrets doing it the way I did off of only that amount of training. It's just, if anyone asks me what to do different next time, it's probably put a little bit more training into it and ramp it up a little bit more. So.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about if you can like chunk the race into bits and pieces, like how did it feel, when you first started versus, halfway through, or, break it down for us a little bit.
So yeah, it's definitely a totally different experience. Some of the jokes they were telling me was, don't forget to do your warm up, stuff like that. Like, and I played along with it too. I was like, well, normally for like a 5K, I'd probably warm up 2 miles. So since this is like a bunch of 5Ks, I probably should at least put a 20-mile warm up in, right? But it's totally different because you literally just walk to the line. We did start a little different because of the COVID-19 stuff. We had to start in like groups of 3 that were 6 feet apart, and every minute a group of 3 started, where normally you'd start all together. Mm-hmm. So that did experience a little bit different. I started in the front group, and you start and they're like, ready, set, go. And you cross the start line and you start at like 7:40 pace. So it's like, it's a totally different experience for me because that's not even how I normally start like an easy everyday run. So I'm starting conservative, but it feels so weird. And it was dark when we started, so you kind of needed a light. Most people had headlamps because they're all experienced, ultra guys. But I had I had these knuckle lights I used to run to and from school, and I found them, and one of them was broke. So I took the broken one with me and kept it until I didn't need it more, just threw it in the trash can. So a little different starting experience. You're starting in the dark. You're jumping on. We jumped on a towpath trail right away, basically through a parking lot. We jumped onto it and we went. But you're starting at like this easy pace, and so you're kind of just, I started with Arlen Glick, who ended up winning it, and Sam Skeels, who's done it. Both of them are pretty, veteran ultra guys and super nice guys. So, conversations were good at the start. I gained as much experience just talking to them as I did actually doing the race too, just asking stuff. I mean, scared to ask.
Yeah.
So I asked them questions, but you're starting at a conversational pace and you're just kind of going, and it just seems like a normal, everyday, easy run. Not like you're actually going to run 100 miles.
What was the course like, by the way?
It was all on the towpath trail, basically. So super flat. You ran basically from Akron down to Navarre, Ohio, did a hairpin turn, ran back up towards where you started, which I didn't quite make it back to there. And then you go up north a little bit and then come back down flat. That's the reason I was willing to try it. It's paths I run all the time. It's in the area that I train. It was an opportunity to experience it at home. And my kids, I told my wife, don't try to follow me around or anything, but it ran 10 minutes from my house. So they drove to that point. I saw my wife and kids at 10 minutes from my house at about mile 33. I want to say I saw them, and I was feeling pretty good then. So they got to see an excited dad instead of one like he was near death. But so I was still feeling good then. But it's a different experience because about I want to say 18 miles in, I was running with Arlen still, and he stopped to use the restroom. And then I was by myself, and I don't run well by myself. So I started picking it up probably a little too aggressively. Probably bad at mile 18 of 100 miles, but I was kind of cruising and I was feeling really good. And I had in my mind what I wanted to accomplish and what I wanted to do. And my belief was, and it's the way I run and everything. So I did it for 100 mile or two is go for broke. So I went for it and started dropping some times that probably most people would label as aggressive for 100 miles. And I thought, you know what? Once I started clicking them and I looked at my watch, I stopped looking at my watch at one point because I just didn't even want to know how far I had run. At about mile 30, I was like, I'm done looking at the watch because I got 70 miles to go and I'm not going to look at it every mile to see what I'm doing. So, So a couple miles got away from me when I wasn't even looking at my watch and I had no idea. I looked back later and saw a 6:48 in there and I thought, what was I doing? So, but I was so naive at one point in time. I thought, I literally looked at my watch and time of day and I thought, well, we started at 5 a.m. I think I could maybe be done by 5 p.m. That'd be pretty good. I still have the rest, still have some of the day left. And, not realizing that that'd be the first time I believe an American's ever run under 12 hours. I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. I just was cool. I think I can finish this in under 12 hours and I can be back at where we started, eating dinner, sitting down. I knew I was going to go through pain and it was going to hurt, but I just thought, man, the faster I can get this thing done, the faster it's just done, So I just on, and a lot of things were learning experiences on how to handle aid stations. I had a great crew. That was the other thing I was worried about, whether to have a crew or not, what that looks like, what to drink, things like that you don't know until you try it. Just running with a handheld. I mean, I ran with a handheld the whole time. Well, I've never done that before in my life, so that was a different experience, finding the right one that I liked, all in a 3-week period of time. So it was kind of learning on the fly, but I typed out a whole report on aid stations and what I needed them to kind of look like. And literally I just kind of exchanged water bottles at everyone, and I had 2 handhelds and they just refilled them and we just kept exchanging and I kept going. I mean, I didn't stop running. I just was I'm just going to keep going. And a couple times I stopped and put on BioFreeze and stuff like that, just to kind of keep the muscles loose. But I was feeling great through. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I got through the marathon. I was like, this is awesome. I got through 33 miles. I hit a couple spots where I was just kind of, it got monotonous being by myself for 30 miles. But at mile 50, you get a pacer that can jump in with you. So I thought if I can I kept get to the next point in this race, get to the next aid station, get to the next point, and I had different things I was going to take at different aid stations. So I think, okay, get to the next one, I get this, so I kind of kept it. So the big thing was get to mile 50. If I get to mile 50 and I feel good, so I felt good going into mile 50. I told my crew right before the aid station, before mile 50, the one before, I said, I'm going to do a complete wardrobe change at mile 50. I said, my quads are starting to bother me a little bit, so I'm going to put some compression tights on. And my shorts had my number on it. So I said, I'll just put these shorts on right back over. It's getting kind of hot. I want to change to a tank top. And was like, I need to change my socks and my shoes because I was starting to get a blister. So I was like, I'll just change everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that mile might have been the most impressive mile because of their help. But I got a 10-minute mile in while changing my full wardrobe. So I did a full outfit change and ran a mile in 10 minutes because I was hauling to get to there so I could change real quick. But probably the best part of the whole race was when I got there, I needed to put on, I used squirrel's nut butter to kind of help with the chafing on my feet. So I needed to put it on. So when I went to change my socks, I went to put it on and it just instantly melted into a liquid as soon as it hit my feet. Like, that's how hot my feet were. So I was just like,
Wow.
yo, like, it hit my feet. And, one of the guys that was helping crew, he looks at it and he's like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, oh. So I'm like, putting it on my feet, like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, it just melted. And so it went from like a solid, it looks like a deodorant stick. There was a liquid on my foot and instantly.
Wow.
And I was like, that's how hot my feet are. So I did the whole wardrobe change though, and kind of started back in. And then it got kind of warm. And that's where I kind of probably made some mistakes, was not planning for the warmth as much maybe. But I had like, some of the like the gaiters that everyone's wearing nowadays. I had like some cool ones, like supposedly cool you down. So I put those were in ice, and I had a couple hats in ice, and they were changing those for me every station, and I was putting them back on. But there's a couple pictures around mile like 60 where I look like I'm about to die, and that's kind of where it started. So through mile 50, I felt great. I was like, this is awesome. I was drinking plenty of fluids. I thought, and I was drinking tailwind, which I didn't know what it was until I started running ultras. Like, so in the last 3 weeks, I figured out what tailwind was, and and I was pretty hydrated. I was stopping to have to go to the bathroom, so I felt good about it. But about mile 40 to miles till I dropped at 64, I didn't go to the bathroom at all in those 24 miles. So that was getting a little bit like, okay, I'm drinking plenty, but I'm not feeling like I got to go to the bathroom. So I started kind of being like, oh, maybe I should drink more. But I was drinking the whole bottle they were giving me, so I thought I'm doing pretty good. But but I mean, I mean, to put it all in perspective, I think I started consistently dropping like 7-0 miles from about mile 35 to 50 without the ones that I stopped at. I was running like 740 miles and still stopping, trading water bottles and like rubbing biofreeze on and still dropping a 740. So that was kind of a little like, I might be going too fast, but I was not paying attention. I was just going. And it was kind of cool. You get to see like where like that my crew would stay back and they would kind of get me at the next aid station and say, hey, at the last aid station, you were this far ahead of the people, but you also had to keep in perspective, like you started in waves. So I remember one of them, I'm like, how far ahead am I of the next two? And they're like, you're about a minute and a half ahead. I said, well, how far behind me did they start? Well, about 2 minutes. So I'm like, well, technically they're beating me right now. But you probably shouldn't get so consumed in racing a 100-mile race at 30 miles in. You probably shouldn't be too concerned about who is where. But I didn't know any different. I'm used to racing, so I was like, well, I got to pull ahead a little bit more. So I did. So probably not the wisest move. But about mile 60, I lost it. So I kind of got, at that point, I think I was running about I'd averaged about 7:25 per mile through about right around 60 miles. So
wow.
I was feeling pretty good. I felt good about what I was going to do. I think I made the mistake of saying something stupid to my pacer, like I probably could walk the rest of this and still finish in an okay time. Well, the karma got me right after that. So that probably wasn't the best statement to say because I was about to have to walk the rest of the time. But mile 60, I started getting really dizzy. And I felt like my stomach didn't like hurt. It wasn't like upset, but I felt like I needed to puke, but it wasn't like my stomach was upset. I just felt like my body was just like rejecting whatever I was trying to drink. So I just felt like I'd drink something, I'd be kind of like, but it wasn't like upset stomach, like I'm going to hit the porta john or anything. It was just like, I feel like I need to vomit. So I'd like stop to think I was going to maybe puke. And then I'd go back up to run and I would like feel super dizzy and like run probably like a crooked line trying to get back onto the path. So that's when I kind of started being like, okay, this might not be my day. Like I was like, keep trying. So then I was doing like a walk jog. When I was running, I was still running like 7:30 to 8 minute pace. But the problem would be I'd like stop for a little bit and stop for like a minute to kind of compose myself. And then I'd start running again. And that happened for about 4 miles. It just kept going. I went past the aid station at mile 64. And I was going to just keep trying to walk, run. I said, I got to go back. I said, I just need to go back to the bathroom. I felt like someone like stabbed me in my kidney with a knife. Like it was not a pleasant feeling. It kind of worried me a little. It wasn't like, I just thought maybe this is how it feels when you tank in an ultra. So I wasn't like overly concerned, but I kept hearing in the back of my mind, my wife said, don't die. And I really don't want to go to the hospital. So I kind of went back to the aid station, went to the portage on there, and it didn't look right. So I kind of thought, yeah, let's hold on here for a second. And then they set me in a chair in the shade for a second, and I couldn't even really get back up out of the chair. So I kind of was like, guys, I don't think my body can do anymore. And they kind of were like, well, you can maybe try to walk, jog. And so that's going to take forever. Like, I was like, I'm dehydrated now. I said, I don't think I can catch up. Like I said, I messed up. I got myself in a hole, and I didn't know. And at that aid station, I was like trying to drink like Sprite. I had tried Coke. I had tried to get, because like that would settle my stomach, but I was just trying to drink different fluids. But and I don't know how it caught me so quick, but it did. And I just kind of knew my body was done. I mean, if you want to have, if anyone wants to have fun, I hope someone's got a video somewhere of what my life looked like for the next like 12 hours after that. Cause it was like, my wife told me she didn't want me to drive home. She called me and was making sure I was all right. And they all agreed I probably shouldn't drive home because I could barely walk, but I thought I should drive. But they didn't let me drive home. I was like the grumpy old man, like, I can drive. What are you talking about? So, but they didn't let me. They drove my car back, but I couldn't even get into the truck because, one of the guys that was crewing for me, he has a truck and he had driven. And like I said, I wouldn't even made it as far as I did without my crew. Like, they did. It's all local runners that kind of, 3 local runners that kind of encouraged it. And so that was, I mean, getting in and out of his truck was almost like impossible. Like my legs just hurt so bad. I'm pulling myself out.
Wow.
It's rough because I really wanted to keep going, but I just didn't. I mean, I just couldn't. That's my first, that's like career #1 DNF. So I wasn't too happy about it. So I was trying to keep fighting it, but I was, you know what, this is a different ballgame. I got 36 miles to go. Like I didn't know if I could do it, and I had never run one before, and I didn't realize that a lot of people are going to start hitting a point here soon where they're going to struggle too. But looking back at the race now, I see like what it really looks like. Like some of those other guys had like miles where they sat down and waited it for a little bit farther up. They had experience and they kind of. So I kind of got a better idea of what it looks like. You might hit a wall, but you might be able to fight through it enough that you can still stay in contention to still try to win the thing. But being naive, I did a couple things different than what most people might. But I mean, that's basically the summary of what 64 miles looks like.
Shoot. Well, there's no how-to book, right? I mean, that's just. I think there's a rite of passage where you just got to figure it out by doing it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Experience is, nothing is better than the experience of actually trying it and doing it. And I've had multiple people ask me like, oh, would you do it differently if you did it again? And I said, absolutely not. Like, there's no way. Like I did it the way that I know how, and I learned the lessons I needed to learn, and I wouldn't change a thing. And, I already signed up for the next one. I mean, there was no doubt that day I started looking up when's the next attempt. I mean, it hurt really bad. I was on the couch for 12 hours. I couldn't even get on and off the couch really, unless I really had to go to the bathroom. And then it was pulling myself off. The legs were just done. I couldn't go up and down stairs for like 3 days. I just had to pull myself up with the rail. Yeah. I mean, I ran 2 days later, but I didn't, I couldn't walk up and down steps. I could shuffle out there enough to get my legs moving again. But yeah, right. First thought was, well, where's the next one I can do this? Because I gotta try again. And people ask, well, are you gonna do anything differently next time? Well, I'll have more experience and I'll probably train differently, but I probably won't race too much of a different style, because that's just how I run. I'm gonna go for it again, and hopefully this time I make it longer, and hopefully this time I make it the whole way. But I'm not gonna go out, and I guess my style will never be just go out just to hope to finish it. It's gonna be, let's go out and let's see how far I can actually push my body.
Yeah. You want to win.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's just competitiveness, and then I've already talked to people. I don't want to, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. You're going to go all in, and you're going to give it everything you got. And I'm going to do it the same way every time. So just little more training, a little bit more intelligence, and now I'll be able to hold on to that, what I was doing for a little bit longer. And like I told someone yesterday, I said, I'd rather make it to the next one, make it to 80 miles, doing it the same way I did, and then know, all right, I got to train a little harder and try to make it the 20 more miles I got, than just finish it and be like, okay, I did it. Everyone's different. That's the beauty of running, is some people are doing it just to finish, and that's great. And I respect that, because I didn't finish. I have to respect that. And I respect, and I admire anyone who even gets to the line to try to do something that I did. But, my style is not going to probably ever fit someone else's style. And that's just the differences of running. And that's the beauty of running, because everyone's trying to accomplish different things in different ways. And it gives everyone a chance to do something that they have a passion for.
For sure. So how far apart were these aid stations?
They have a pretty, it differs a little bit, but I'd say pretty consistently you're talking about 5 miles. There was a couple times where it was 8 miles, and those ones are probably where I made a mistake. I probably should have taken 2 bottles with me, because I was probably drinking a bottle, I think it was about 18 fluid ounce bottle with tailwind in it every 4 miles-ish. I was getting it done. The 8 miles ones, I probably should have taken 2 bottles with me looking back, and that probably would have given me a better chance, because that happened twice where there's about 8 miles. But again, I didn't study it close enough. I just knew where the aid stations were. I had given that to my crew and told them, this is what I need at each aid station. But I didn't take enough time to really look at the distances between them. And had I done that, I might have planned things a little differently. But again, experience is the best way to learn that. Now I know, let's look at the aid station distances a little bit, and not assume they're all roughly 5 miles, no big deal. That's kind of how but they were roughly about 5 miles apart.
Gotcha. So did you have any sort of calorie goal per hour that you had set, or was it kind of just as long as I'm drinking, consistently, I got my tailwind. So with tailwind, you're getting your carbohydrate, you're getting some electrolytes. As long as you were focusing on getting that in, what did that look like on the front end versus how it played out during the race?
Yeah, so everyone told me it gets about 200 to 300 calories per hour as long as you can tolerate it. So I started, and some people don't do it this way, I started right away with a bottle of tailwind in my hand, and that was done by aid station 1, which was about 5 miles in. And, that's roughly getting me my 250 calories in that bottle. So I thought, if I can just keep getting these every aid station, I'll be good. I didn't want to take too much solid food, because solid food's going to increase the risk of me having to go hit the porta-john. And I was trying to run the whole thing, so I didn't want to hit the porta-john at all unless it was an absolute. So, so the tailwind was my main source. I was just going to drink that the whole time. I had given them variety packs and just said, hey, mix up the flavors. Don't hit the caffeine ones till later. And they did all that perfectly. But I also had in the handheld pouch every single time, I told them, make sure there's a goo liquid one, which was the newer ones, but I liked it because it was basically liquid, but it has 100 calories. So make sure there's one of those, and every time, even if I didn't drink it, just leave the same one in. If it's gone, refill with a new one, and we'll just keep trading. And I had the Cliff shot blocks in there. So a couple times as I got into the race, I started knowing, okay, especially those 8 mile stretches. During those 8 mile stretches, both times I took the goo liquid and I took the Cliff blocks, shot blocks, and ate those in those times, because I was like, this is a longer stretch, which I didn't know in the race, and I already drank the bottle, so I was like, I took those just to make sure I was still getting calories. But yeah, I was trying to get 200 to 300 calories an hour. It was basically going to work out the way if I just drank tailwind, it was going to be really close. But I did supplement it a little bit with the some of those goo liquids and some of the shot blocks, just to make sure I was getting more calories, and that seemed to be working. I mean, I didn't really think that was too much of an issue. I mean, if I'm honest, the biggest issue is signing up for it 3 weeks before. But
yeah, I was gonna say that. Usually, the upper limit for most individuals is about 250 calories from carbohydrate per hour. So it doesn't sound like you were, going way over. And if you go way over, you're going to risk gastrointestinal distress, because it's just going to sit in your stomach. And then, you're shunting blood away from the muscles, because now you've got to spend more energy on digestion, and that can become an issue. So it doesn't sound like that was, the limiting factor here, which is good. So it sounds like you said, it's just 3 weeks beforehand, you're just, going to run 100 miles.
The nutrition stuff I had to play with it a little bit for the weeks leading into it because I had used like Accelerate previously for like my half marathons and marathons, and that wasn't too bad. But when I tried it for like doing like some of these long runs back to back, it was too heavy. It just set in my stomach. But I've already started playing with nutrition stuff again. There's a company based out of Cincinnati called Infinite that I tried just started back this week, and then it's got because I want it to be like light but still have the calories I need. Like I don't want it to be a heavy drink. So, and I'm big on I believe it. I mean, I think a lot of these people are trying to is to try to as best I can to just get as much as I can just from the drink. Like a lot of these drinks are advertising now like you don't need sodium tablets. That was my other issue. I was worried I was going to take in too much sodium. I was going to swell too much. And I started a little. I did swell a little. I had to like loosen my watch strap a couple times because it was getting too tight. My shoes got a little tight. I lost a couple toenails because I think I was probably swelling a little on my feet. But so I was you got to balance all that because Tailwind's pretty high in sodium, so it might be a little too high. So I'm trying to play around with that a little bit, find that. But I think the optimal thing is, in order to just keep running, is to see how much you can do with just liquid and then supplement it with a little bit of gels and no solid food if possible. Because my goal is just to keep running as fast as I can for 100 miles and not, if I was trying to just finish, you also got to think the longer you're out there, the more you're going to need. So the quicker you can run, the less you're going to need. So,
yeah. One of the things that, so there's this lady, she's like a very, very well-known expert in the world of endurance hydration and specifically female endurance hydration. And her perspective is get all your calories from solid food, get all your hydration, your electrolytes from liquid. And that's how she does things. And she thinks that's the best way to do it. And then I know people who have finished top 100 in the world in the Ironman, and they're like, I don't want to eat anything, and I'm only going to use what they have available on the course, which is going to be Gatorade Endurance and maybe some goo packs. And they're just as successful as somebody who's doing, this other setup where they're only getting their calories from food. So at the end of the day, I think the people who tend to want to just finish are probably going to have more success, where they can take their time, they can eat their calories, they can do all that. If your goal is to throw down some fast times, you gotta just deal with what you have sometimes. And sometimes that means, you can't wait for digestion. You can't wait for your body to have to deal with that. Like, I need some calories right now, and maybe it's not the optimal ratio of protein and fat and carbohydrates. Like, I just need some high intensity fuel. I need some sugar, and that's what's going to get me through this next mile to my next aid station where I can, re-up and do the same thing again. So, I'm planning on getting in within the next few weeks some experts who I think I sent you a couple of the studies.
Yep. Yeah.
So I've got this lady, Dr. Jill Parnell. She developed, along with her research colleagues, they developed a questionnaire to figure out for endurance runners, ultra endurance runners. It's like a questionnaire to figure out what types of food cause gastrointestinal distress. And then they use that questionnaire to figure out, all of these basically like data groups, like figure out like the differences between men and women, and the differences between elite athletes and more weekend warrior type athletes, or the differences between shorter length competitions and longer competitions. So I'm really excited to have her on. We're going to be scheduling that and getting that done in the near future. And then I've got another, I've got a couple more that are all related that I'm really excited to do, because it all just time-wise, I didn't plan it out. It just kind of all happened that like it's all happening right now. And I was like, man, it would be awesome to get Nik on to talk about this. And then, have these researchers come on and kind of share what they have. So um, I'm I'm pumped about it. It's all coming together at the perfect time. So hopefully I'll get some good information from that, and maybe some of that will be helpful for you going forward. So we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree. I think that my big thing is when I'm running it too, I said I wanted to keep it simple. So the simplicity of just, it's all in a liquid. Just hand me this. I know what I'm taking. I know what I'm getting in.
Mm-hmm.
I can just keep running and I'm not thinking about my nutrition. Like, I don't want to think about that, I guess. My thought was I want to think about just running to the next aid station. Just give me the fluids and I'll just drink them. But
Mm-hmm.
I could see the benefits both ways. I think it comes down to, a lot of people are going to be different. It's just like when people talk about what's your pre-race meal. And if I tell people my pre-race meal, they would think that there's no way he can run fast, because no one that runs fast, and not that I run that fast anymore, but no one that runs that, even faster-ish times would eat what I eat. And then, so my pre-race meal for when I started running faster in college on has basically been like, all right, I'll eat 2 Pop-Tarts and a cup of coffee. And I just like, I've never had any stomach issues when I do that. I've never
Uh-huh.
had, it's just like I'm good to go. And I know, and it gets me a lot of carbohydrate, simple carbs quick in the morning, and it's like good to go. I mean, and I've never had like, oh my gosh, this was a terrible idea. Where I used to have the bagel with peanut butter that everyone swears by, and I always had stomach problems. Always, like,
Mm.
peanut butter was too much for me in the morning, so I can't even have peanut butter in the morning. So I was like, why do I keep doing this if I'm having issues? So I just had an athlete ask me recently, like, well, what do you eat before a race? And I said, well, you probably don't want to know, but this is what it is. And so I said, it's kind of to each their own. Like, you find what works and you stick with it. Don't always we try to, too often we try to replicate what someone else is doing. And even when it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work for us, we swear, it's like, well, there must be something wrong with us because this isn't working, but it works for such and such. Well, maybe this
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work for you. So I think a lot of times in athletics, especially younger kids that can be molded easily, they see what LeBron James does, or they see what the other runner at this race does, and they think, oh, well, I saw him or her warming up for this amount of time, and the last part of their warm up was a dead sprint, and they beat me today, so I got to do exactly what they did. And that
Mm-hmm.
honestly, one of my big downfalls my senior year of high school was, um, I heard a rumor, and I still to this day don't know if it's true or not. We could probably ask him at some point in time. But when I was in high school, I was, gearing up towards the end of the season. I heard a rumor that Levi Fox is running 20-mile runs on Sunday. So
Yeah.
you better believe what I did the next like 4 Sundays. I ran
Uh-huh.
20-mile runs. So I ended up being iron deficient and having all kinds of problems at the end of my senior season, because I thought, well, I heard such and such is running 20 miles a week, so I better do 20 miles a week or 20 miles on Sunday, because that's what he's doing on Sundays. And if at the end of the season I want to beat him, the old, mantra of do what they do, or do what they do and one up it. You got to work harder than they work. And
Mm-hmm.
in distance and endurance sports, that's not always necessarily the truth. Doesn't always lie in what someone else is doing, or you have to outwork someone else. You have to find out what you do well and stick with that. But
Yeah. I was actually thinking when you started talking about your pre-race meal, I was thinking about I think conversations that we had when we were doing JO cross country about Levi Fox's breakfast, his pre-race breakfast, and I don't even remember what it was, but for some reason I thought of that. It was some unique cereal, and like he had it every time at a certain time, like exactly 2 hours before. I don't remember, but it was like very, very. There was a protocol involved. It wasn't. It was exactly the same, and I was like, man, I don't do that. I just kind of like,
go with it.
yeah, hey mom, what's for breakfast? Maybe it's bacon and eggs, maybe it's cereal, maybe it's in high school it was whatever. And then 45 minutes to an hour beforehand, I'd either have like a power bar or um, like granola bar or something like that. And then I never had any GI issues at all. Maybe I wasn't running far enough for that to be a thing. But it's crazy, man. Like in college, it was kind of the same. Like if we were traveling for a meet, whatever the hotel had for breakfast, I'd stick with stuff that was pretty bland, bagel, a banana. It was carb heavy, and then that was it. But there was a dude on our team who um, he couldn't eat within 4 hours of racing. So he would wake up, like if we had an 8 a.m. race, he would get up at 4 and he would eat something. and then he'd go back to sleep for 2 hours and then wake up or whatever. Like, but if he had anything to eat within that 4-hour window, he was going to be sick during the race. And I could not believe it. I couldn't understand it. I just ate 45 minutes ago and I feel fine. So,
yeah. Well, everyone's definitely different. I mean, I tell people all the time that the night before I ran my 5K PR, for dinner, I ate a bag of Halloween candy. And that's, so I didn't know. I just kind of had like, whatever. This is a after season 5K we're going to run. So I'm not too concerned about it. And I literally just couldn't get anything for dinner because I was working and there was a bag of Halloween candy in the back. So I ate that for dinner and then went home and went to bed and nothing of it. So I think a lot of it's mental though too, is what I tell the kids a lot of times too. Like, don't overthink things. Don't get yourself worked up. I used to be such a routine person, and then everything wanted to be to a T, kind of like you're talking about the pre-race meal had to be this and at this time and all this. And then actually, I was like, I think my sophomore year in college, we were going out to California for nationals, and my bag didn't go to California; it went to Hawaii. So all my stuff ended up in Hawaii, and I kind of threw off my whole routine. I was there with just my carry-on bag with no uniform. I had to borrow someone else's uniform. I had to go buy a new pair of spikes to run in the 1500 prelims, and I was like, I literally walked the line going, the way this weekend's gone, there's no way I'm running well. And then I ran my 1500 PR and thought, well, you know what? Maybe I'm putting too much value into everything having to be perfect and everything have to be routine. And from there, I kind of just, go with the flow a little bit more. I mean, you want things to be optimal, but just like in life, running's the same way. A lot of times you're not going to get your optimal situation. And how can you handle it? Can you be resilient? Can you persevere through some difficult times? And I think sometimes as runners, and I think that was kind of my mission with this whole run, and how can I handle it? And did I finish? No. And was I upset I didn't finish? Yes. But at the same time, like how I respond to this is hopefully an example to other people. Like the first thing I did is when's my next attempt? Too often in life we see like, oh, I failed, I didn't accomplish the goal, and so I must not be good at this, or I'm not made out for this, or this is too hard. I can't handle, it's not my skill set, or it's not what I'm good at. Instead, we don't see that maybe that's the lessons can be learned in the difficult times, and get back up and try again. It's not necessarily, it's not defeat, it's another opportunity to do something again. And I kind of said before the race, I told a lot of people I wanted it to be kind of like an inspiration to people in a sense of, but I didn't want it to be the cliche that, oh, if he can do this, I can do it too. And it's kind of funny because it turns out I can't do it. So I didn't do it. So I guess I ate my own words there, because it wasn't an inspiration in the sense of he can do it, I can do it too, because I didn't do it. I didn't accomplish it. So I said I didn't want it to be that. I want to be more an inspiration. Like, I've always wanted to try this, so I'm going to kind of go give it a go. And I hope that someone takes that from it. Like, I didn't accomplish it. I failed, and that's okay. The first thing was, though, how do I get back up and do this again? I guess ultra running kind of interests me too, because I think it's the closest thing I can get as a runner to kind of a boxing match. You're kind of you're going to get beat down, but how many punches can you take before you're knocked out? And I guess I took about 64 miles worth of punches, and then I was done. You got to live to fight another fight. So we're going to give it another go and plan it. And I got some people going with me, and it's kind of cool. I've kind of made some buddies and some friends just kind of through this ultra thing, and just getting to know some other ultra people. And they've given me some good advice. And it kind of, I guess a while back, I said I wanted to find a way to get back involved in kind of the running community and contribute to the running community. And this is kind of been the opportunity that presented itself right now. So I'm really grateful for that. And just learning a lot. I mean, it's fun. It's really fun. I mean, you can't, just because you don't do it successfully doesn't mean it can't be fun. We got to keep doing stuff that's gets you kind of waking up in the morning and gets that heart beating and gets you going, and you kind of get passionate about. So it's kind of been a unique and a fun experience. And I've only been doing it for like a month, so I can't wait to see what else can possibly happen.
For sure. So what's the next race? What's the tentative plan?
So right now I'm looking to go to Tunnel Hill. It's in Southern Illinois. It's a 100-miler in November. So hopefully the weather will be a little bit nicer, but we also could possibly be getting snowed on, I guess. So you can't count on anything. It'll probably get a little colder, but it's in November. We're a couple of us that just did the Canal Corridor one. We're going out to that one. I've reeled a couple other people in to possibly be, trying this 100. And, I got Tony Migliozzi, who was crewing for me. Then this last one, he's going to go with me, and we're going to, go after it together and see what we can do. We already started kind of training together. I mean, we've trained together before, but just see what the opportunity presents itself. I mean, I totally respect the 100-mile distance now. I got a lot of respect for it, but at the same time, I'm ready to conquer it, and I don't want to just kind of take it down lightly. I want to just kind of hammer it down. Like I owe the 100-miler a nice punch back from that last battle. So
For sure.
again, I'm gonna go out aggressively, and someone's probably gonna call me stupid again, and it's gonna hurt really bad, and I'm gonna do something that I'll probably learn another lesson from. But I honestly I don't know. I really just don't know any other way to do it other than to go all in and go for broke,
Mm-hmm.
and train harder this time. I mean, it gives me 100 and I don't know what it was, about 115 days of training or something like that, 120.
Mm-hmm.
Around 120 days of training. So that's a lot different than 21 or whatever it was last time. So it'll give me a better shot at it, but you got to have a successful block of training and injury free. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning all kinds of different tricks of the trade on recovering from putting in some high mileage again. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I have high mileage since I guess right after college a little bit. So it's a different training. I got to get really as efficient as I can at a certain pace that's not necessarily a race pace, but it is a race pace. It's your 100-mile race pace, but it's what normally you'd consider probably a recovery run for me. Now,
Mm-hmm.
also I got just super efficient at that pace for long durations and hit up weekends of back-to-back long runs. But yeah, we're going to go to Tunnel Hill, and it's November 14th, I'm pretty sure. I'm just looking
Awesome.
forward to another opportunity to kind of, like I said, throw a punch back at the 100-mile distance and see what can happen, and hoping to do something a little bit more than last time, and we'll see what happens. But life's a learning experience in itself, so this is just another opportunity to learn something.
For sure. That's awesome. Well, I was really happy to hear that you weren't done. Like I was shocked when I saw that you were doing it. I was like, oh my gosh, like 100 miles, like is this for real? Like why would anyone do this? But why would Nick do this? But then seeing that, you 64 miles, like, and what was your average? Like 740, 730?
Well, I think when I actually so I think I was running 7:35 pace when I officially called it quits, and then I kind of let my watch run for a while because I thought in my mind, that was the other rookie mistake I made early on. It was like the first time I stopped to go to the bathroom, I stopped my watch like you would on a normal run or something. And it's like someone's like, "No, you want the running time for the whole race." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right." So I didn't rest the time. So then when I was calling it quits, I sat there for about 10 minutes with my watch just running and just sat there and thought, "I'm gonna get back in this." And then I finally stopped my watch. But when I actually stopped running, I was still at like 7:35 average when I finally was like done running and just started standing there. And then I stood for 10 minutes, so obviously that messes up your average pace a little. But I was still thinking big things at 7:35 per mile. I thought, man, I still. But I went through 50 feeling really good, and it was running like 7:25 per mile. And I thought, man, I'm about to rock this thing, and we're gonna. At that point, I thought, man, I could run faster than this. So it's so funny how miles later I was dead. But
Yeah.
4 miles earlier, I thought, oh, I can drop some faster times, and I didn't. I just kept running around 7:30 to 8-minute pace, but.
Mm-hmm.
In between that range, but it got hot quick. I mean, I changed it, like I told you, I changed it to a tank top, and those 14 miles, I got my shoulders burnt, like in 14 miles, burnt
Mm-hmm.
shoulders. So like, how did I do that? Like, I was like, that's crazy. So, a different ball game, but I learned so much in round one that I'm first thing was wins round two. Let's go. Like, I'm not going to give up on this.
That's awesome. I think that's like where you were mentioning, like, you want this to be some sort of inspiration. Like that is inspirational, I think. And honestly, the fact that you were able to hit 50 miles, averaging 725 or whatever, like when I'm going out for my just regular runs and I check the clock and I'm like at 7:30, I'm like, oh my goodness, Nick did this for 50 miles and I'm trying to do this for 4. Like maybe I should step my game up, So that's helpful for me, knowing that, we're the same age and you're still
Oh,
getting after it. Like, what's my excuse? Why am I running so slow?
it's not that slow. You just need to keep going farther,
No, thank you. 5Ks are long enough for me. So
well, it's funny because I started in high school and I wanted to refuse to run the mile because it was 4 laps around the track. want me to run around this track 4 times? And then I can't even remember the time they asked me to do the 2 mile, and I was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. And I did it a couple times, but I was like, this is so boring. 8 laps track. I was laughing about that the other day. And then in college, also, they're like, you want to try the 10K around the track? I'm like, how many laps is that? 25? No, thanks. I'll pass. I mean, I did it, but it was just like, where you come from. And that's, I guess, the other fun part is we all start somewhere and we can all end up, you can keep pushing yourself to something different. Like I literally refused to run the 2 mile when I was in high school because it was 2 miles. And I thought that was way too far to ever have to run at once for a race. And, that was, that's only 16 years ago. I mean, that's a long time, but still, like in 16 years, I went from I refused to run 2 miles to, okay, let's try 100 at once. I mean,
that's a big jump.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Well, shoot, man. Are you familiar with the Barkley marathons?
Oh, yeah. So I did a little research when I was thinking about doing this. I watched a couple documentaries on ultras just to see what it was about. I have no interest in doing the Barkley marathon. It doesn't even like register in my mind of like not knowing exactly what the course is or the exact distance, or all it took was for me to watch it and see them get their legs cut up by like, thorn bushes. And I was like, no, that's I don't think I could show up to a race and just hope that I can figure out the course. That's my big. I was like, that's not really a race to me. That's like a orienteering or something, like whatever they call it. Like I don't.
It's a scavenger hunt. You got to find this book, and then you got to rip out your page number. And wow,
I watched it.
And by the way, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just said I watched it and I thought, no thanks. Yeah. No.
Yeah. First lap, you're going to go this way. Then you're going to turn around, do it backwards, and then flip it again. And then, if you're the first person after 4 laps, then you get to pick which direction you want to go.
Yeah.
That's a real treat.
Yeah, sounds great. And wild animals out here just ready to eat me alive. So
honestly, a client of mine turned me on to that and said, Kevin, you got to watch this. And I did. And I was very, very intrigued watching it, but I have no interest in doing it at all. Like I think it's great that people are out there doing it and they're crazy enough to, to give it a go. But I'm not even sure I'd want to go and watch because like, it's just so long. Like,
yeah,
it's taking days.
I said I wouldn't. This last one I said, we're starting at 5 a.m. If it gets dark, I'm done. Like, I'm not going long. Now, the next one I'm doing, we'll definitely have to finish in the dark because it'll be in November. So we'll definitely finish with it being dark out. So that'll add a different element too. But so I'll have to take back that statement for this next one. But I can't imagine, like I told him, I said, I can't imagine the people that go over 24 hours. I mean, I respect it, but I'm thinking, I was like, I might tap out at like 16 hours and call it a day so I can go home and sleep. Like, I don't. It's just like with marathons. I always respect people that do them. People would always ask questions like, well, how do you run them so fast? And I respect you more because you can be out there for so long, because I have no interest in being out there for that long. I just be done as fast as I can, because I think people confuse the fact that we run with the fact that we enjoy running. I don't necessarily enjoy it. I just do it. I don't want to be, it's like I'm out there in a joyride. I'm thinking this is a blast. I'm out here like, all right, let's push my body to the limits. So again, everyone's got their own reasons they run. So that's the beauty of it. Mine is not for enjoyment. I don't actually enjoy the action of running. Is not an enjoyable experience to me. It's just not. Yeah. I always did it to be competitive, and I always did it to push my body. I like the idea of finishing something and knowing you push the limits. But the idea of actually like going for a run for the simple pleasure of running is never registered in my mind ever. So people do, and I get it, and I respect them, but that's not me. People always confuse, like, you ran high school and college cross country, so you must like running. Like, no, I absolutely do not like the idea of running.
Dude, I'm the same way. I loved racing. I liked running fast. I did not like training. I didn't like running. Like, I didn't want to do it. Like, if I didn't have a team, I wouldn't have done it. Like, if I didn't have to run cross country in order to run track in college, I wouldn't have done it, because I didn't want to run further than 5K, and now we're running 8K and 10K. Like, this is stupid. Why do we just double our race distance? Yeah, there's very few times where I've physically enjoyed running, just running. not racing. Like most of the time it was the season would end, I'd take a week or two off, and then the week that I'd start back up where like there's no pressure and I could just go to like a state park. There's nobody there and I can get off the road. I'm just running trails and like, for 5 minutes out of a half an hour, I'm like actually enjoying myself. But then I'm like, oh, it's hot or it's cold, depending on when it was. And like, this sucks. Like, why am I doing this? Like, yeah, I'm good at it. I'm decent at it. Like, but do I love this? No, I'd rather be watching TV. I'd rather be napping. Like, there's tons of stuff I'd rather be doing. I'd rather be eating food. So I get it. I completely understand that sentiment. But there's tons of stuff that we do that we don't enjoy that tend to be good for us. And then there's things that we do that we don't enjoy that are probably awful for us, like running 100 miles. So
probably that's probably not good for me or enjoyable, but test the limits. I think the running part for me has always been fun, is the mental game inside of it. And like you said, I never really enjoyed training, but I always trained hard because I wanted to be on race day. I wanted to be one step in front of whoever I was up against on the line. So, and like you said, teammates and the camaraderie, that stuff always gets you going. And we were just laughing about this yesterday. I was running with Tony, and everything we did was a competition too. I mean, we kept like the cross country coach I'm coaching with now at Carrollton said, oh, you got the warm-up king or something, kind of making fun of a kid. And I was like, oh, well, we kept medal counts of warm-ups when I was at Malone. Like, I got a gold medal today. Like, we were always, it was always, and then he's like, and then you guys did the workout? Oh, yeah, we did the workout just fine. But we raced that warm-up, and we made games of everything, and it just made it interesting. We did a Tour de France game we were just talking about the other day. We'd race to stop signs to get the polka dot jersey, race up the hills to get the green jersey. And then you'd keep like your total for the week to who had the yellow jersey for the amount, like your average pace for the week. I got the yellow jersey right now. And then we'd mess with each other, wear stuff that was red, green, or yellow, and just give each other a hard time about it and be like, oh, I got the yellow jersey right now. So I don't think we ever like enjoyed the idea of running. We just enjoyed the idea of like beating each other up, and pushing each other, and it's fun. That stuff was fun. But like you said, I never was like, oh, I can't wait. I just can't wait to go for this 10-mile run today. Like I never was like, this is going to, but we did it because we knew we had to be better for the weekend. And we did it because we holding each other accountable, but it was never. And some people do that. They're just like, man, I really enjoy just going out for a run, and more props to them and respect to them. But that wasn't my style. My style was push the body a little bit, get a good feeling, and maybe get some of those endorphins going, and then get back and recover as quick as I can so I can do it all over again. But
I hear that, man. When we were in college, it was we'd always make fun of people who would try to race the warm up. We'd say, wow, winner of warm up. Like we would wow people if they started speeding up while we were warming up. Like the whole group, there'd be like 10, 15 of us guys, and we'd all just like, especially if it was a freshman, like if it was like the first couple weeks of the season, and they're like, we couldn't do it to Daniel Roberts, obviously, because Daniel Roberts, but but everyone else, if there was a freshman and they'd like, while we're warming up, they're like moving up in the pack, and they're like, dude, we're just warming up. Like, yeah, well, feel slow or whatever. They'd always give some, excuse. And then they'd start pulling away, and then like in unison, we'd all just, wow. It was always funny, but yeah. I guess that's why Malone was always beating Cedarville.
It's just the warm-up, man. The warm-up. You guys were slacking on the warm-up. That's what did it. Well, we did plenty of stupid stuff. We were talking about the other day. Everything we did was a competition. How much ice cream you could eat, how much food you could consume at the cafeteria, how long you could do a competition. I did once with James Zoik where it was could either one of us survive the whole week with only eating cereal for a week.
Oh my
gosh. I was running like 100 miles that week, and all I ate was cereal for the week. Everything we did was a competition of some sort. So it was pretty much just we made all these games up and these rules up, and always we're going at each other with it. So it only took time before the warm up became another one of those games, I guess, because You're right. It started the first few years, you want to be warm-up king. And to the end of it, it was like, well, I got 5 gold medals this week from winning 5 warm-ups. And you're like, I'm sure that Coach Hazen wouldn't be excited about hearing any of this, but I don't know how much he knew. He probably knew because we usually come sprinting in at the end of the warm-up. Like, what are these guys doing? And you try to like measure your medals for the week. Like if one kid took off and he didn't have any medals, you're like, whatever, you can have it today. But then, the next time you might be like, well, I think that, Tony's got 3 medals and I only got 2, so I better win this one today. And you kind of strategizing your warm up the whole time. You'd be like kind of like sitting back until someone made a move, and when someone made a move, it was like go time. So we
That's
probably
hilarious,
weren't
man.
most of what we did, but everything was a competition. So that's what got us
Yeah.
going, I guess.
Man, I'm sure that was super helpful just to keep you motivated to train intensely. Cause like there's times where you just, it's easy to just go through the motions. But I think that's one reason, you guys were successful consistently, like year after year. Like, yeah, we'd have good guys on our team, but I wasn't running times like y'all were running times. Like your whole team was running fast, So, yeah, that competition makes it honestly more fun. It makes it more enjoyable to do that monotonous, unfun, painful stuff sometimes. So,
Definitely.
Shoot, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's always good to catch up, and brings back lots of memories from high school, from college, and that's always fun, always healthy. So,
Absolutely.
But yes, best of luck in training going forward, and hopefully I'll get those guests on soon, and they'll be able to hopefully provide you some information that's a little bit better than 20% true, 80% false.
Yeah.
We'll see though. We'll see. Who knows? They are scientists though, so they make their living off of, I think, posting or publishing true things. So, but yeah. Anyway, Nick, thanks again, and keep training hard and keep us posted on how everything's going.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can come back on here after I do the next one and I'll actually have finished it. And then we can talk about what it looks like to finish 100 miles.
Yes, I will hold you to that. And if it doesn't happen next time, then you'll have to do another one, and we'll just keep doing these episodes till you're finally successful.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Alrighty, y'all. Thanks for watching and listening, and make sure you're following Nick and sending him some support and love. And yeah, stay tuned for next week's episode. Adios.